The US elections have turned into a race to woo Indian voters. Days after Joe Biden appointed Kamala Harris as his running mate, today US President Donald Trump has posted a video featuring Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The video captioned 4 more years and shows Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump's moments at the Howdy Modi event in Houston and Namaste Trump events in Gujarat. This comes as Biden and Kamala Harris wished all Indians Ganesh Chaturthi on Twitter as well. And this comes days after the two candidates sparred, with Biden claiming that he backs India versus China, to which Trump pointed out that he had always respected PM Modi and never intervened when it came to Kashmir. So who should India trust, Trump or Biden? Which of the two candidates will benefit India? Well, that is something that we'll find out by speaking to our notable guest. Joining me on the panel is Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former ambassador and visiting scholar, George Washington University. In fact, he is joining us from the heart of the action. He is in Washington, D.C. We will also be having Ambassador Deepak Vora, who will join us momentarily. Manish Pandya, editor of the Sunday Guardian, is also here with us. And last but not the least, Joyita Basu, editor of Sunday Guardian, is here with us. And Sumit Peer, analyst, is also joining us on the panel. Ambassador Kapoor, like the Americans say, let's get a bird's eye view from you as to what's really happening in Washington, D.C. right now. Obviously, let's put things into perspective. We are living under the assumption, or rather we are living under this fact that, India has always done under the Republicans. I don't know whether we're doing well with Donald Trump or not because of the trade war, which has been going on ever since Donald Trump took office in 2016. Vis-a-vis what Joe Biden is promising. He's been a little hot and cold. He did say a few unsavory things about Kashmir, and then he perhaps rescinded them because he felt that that was not the nice thing to do if you want to woo the Indian crowds. What's it going to be? Is Joe Biden just paying lip service at this moment? Because, when it comes to inclination, the Indian Americans have always been, they've always leaned in favor of the Democrats. Of the 3 million plus Indians who live over there, 60 to 70% of them have a penchant for the Democratic Party.
Thank you, Vineet. The position on the ground today is as follows. The support in the key states, in the swing states, is very narrow for either candidate. So each and every vote is going to count very significantly. So they are going to do a lot of micromanagement now and get into the granularity of the voting patterns. And therefore, the importance of the Indian voters comes in even more significantly on the scenario. There are about over 1.5 million Indian voters, while our population is over 3.5 million and Hindus in the US today are over 4 million. But in terms of voting population, we are about 1.5 million. And they can make a significant impact if they come out and vote. So both the parties are now trying to get out this vote and for them to vote with their feet so that they cast their votes. Traditionally, the voting pattern is correct, what you're saying, but Trump's 4 years have shown that his statements on areas of strategic concern to India, the support from the Republican side has been very firm and way beyond anybody's expectations in India on Ladakh, on the South China Seas actions, etc. Whatever has been demonstrated on these statements by the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, those have been very, very firm and very, very forthcoming. So from that perspective, yes, there is definitely a strategic comfort level between the Trump team and India, which is much higher than what Kamala Harris had been saying on Kashmir or what Biden had been saying on Kashmir. So what would tilt the balance in favor of either candidate would, in my opinion, be the following. If, for example, a Nikki Haley comes out very strongly in support of Trump. Now, what is Nikki Haley? Nikki Haley has a persona which is much more widely accepted on the global dimension also, global sphere, and in the domestic sphere also. She has been governor of South Carolina. She has been the permanent representative of the United States in the United Nations. So she knows a lot of world leaders. So international relations also, she's very strong. Domestic politics also, she's very strong. So if, for example, theoretically strategizing, if Trump were to announce her as the vice presidential candidate, the table may suddenly tilt in favor of Trump in the key swing states as far as the swing votes are concerned, the Indian votes particularly, which have been voting traditionally for, the Democrats. A large number would migrate towards Trump immediately if the moment he announces Nikki Haley as a vice president's candidate. But what I learned sitting in Washington is the following. Nikki Haley is a person who, can have ambitions to become the president, which is very justified because she has that sort of profile and those sort of capacities and capabilities. And she is targeting to stand for elections in 2024, 4 years from now. And she is probably not sure whether the Republicans are currently in a strong enough wicket to win this election. So she does not want to be on the losing side. So she's coming on very strongly at the Republican National Convention, which is starting tomorrow for the next 3 days. But she would be in support of the Republican candidates. So if Mike Pence is still, configured as the vice presidential candidate for Trump, the possibilities of the Trump and Mike Pence team winning are not as bright as Biden and Kamala Harris team winning. And for the Indian perspective, the Indian strategic interest, what we definitely need is for the Indian diaspora in the US to communicate very, very clearly to both these candidates from the Democrat side that, this is what is of concern to us, your past statements, your past positions on these issues. We do not see enough advisors who are of Indian origin in either of your teams, that is Biden or Kamala Harris. They may have about 100 advisors. The number of Indian origin advisors on the teams is a very, very small sprinkling. That definitely needs to increase very significantly because the Indians on most White House teams in the last few decades, the numbers are very, very high. Thank you.
Yeah, let me also get an opening remark from Manish Pandya, editor of ITV Network. Manish, you've been following up on the US elections. In fact, you went to Atlanta when the Howdy Modi event happened, and also tell us, in this race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, there is obviously a catch-22 situation. Trump is perhaps, not doing so well when it comes to the rating so far because of his response to COVID-19 in the United States. He's trying to offset that by, targeting China, which helps our cause. But at the same time, Joe Biden, who looks to be more progressive, is going to bring about sweeping changes, in the way America does business, perhaps with India in the future because of the fact that they don't want to do business with China, is another initiative for Prime Minister Modi to gravitate towards Joe Biden. In your assessment, how is the Indian community peaked at this point in time, whether they're going to go for Joe Biden? Historically, they have fell for the Democrats, or are they going to go for Donald Trump? And like Ambassador Kapoor also pointed out, Nikki Haley is going to be speaking at one of those conventions, and she's much loved by the Indian community.
Yeah, one thing is very clear, and this has been made possible by only none other than Prime Minister Modi, that for the first time, a predominantly Democrat supporting Indian American vote bank, which is 80% Democrat supporters, it has been split by the influence and the persona of Prime Minister Modi. So that thing, and given the personal chemistry which President Trump shares with Prime Minister Modi, and being a trader and a businessman to the core, he will try to encash that to the last. Because the trigger to all this wooing the Indian American community, which is very coincidental, because yesterday was Ganesh Chaturthi and tomorrow is the National Convention where he will be swinging all venom against Biden and his company with all those things which will cater straight to the all-white American vote bank, which we have written today in Sunday Guardian. The trigger is Kamala Harris and the Biden combined, which is coming and which has really given a current to the Biden camp and the campaign. And also the predictions. Don't go by the vote, polling, the poll surveys and all, as Professor Kapoor pointed out, because if we go by the 2016 polls, Trump actually won in the states where he was losing 12 hours or 24 hours before in the polls. And the polls have actually shrunk to about 6%. So that is something which we can put it on the back burner, because now, from the conventions, it is a new fight. It's like Biden versus, it's all out in the open, from personal abuses to just wooing the American vote bank, white American vote bank to nationalism, because he will play all the cards and he will try to rubbish everything what Biden has said. But one thing is very clear, that we have to see that how much effect what Mr. Modi had shown with Mr. Trump is going to show. And there is no doubt about it that Indians really appreciate the way Mr. Trump has stood, be it in the US-IPF, which is the US-India Strategic Partnership Forums in the business side, or in the trade, or in people-to-people contact. And so much so that not even a word has been raised on when Trump raised his visa issues and the green card issue and blocked all those prospects of thousands of Indians waiting in the queue. Because we all know that this is all political. We all know that this will actually end after November, December, whoever comes to the White House. So there is no point. So we are slightly out of this all these politics now, but we are watching. It's very gripping. And Professor Kapoor said, and it is very, because of the 4 million fastest growing ethnic population in the American system, you have more than 1.5 million in the vote bank for Trump, which will affect a lot. And not many would go straight in the polls for Trump. And let me put it straight through this platform, that the poll surveys are designed in a way that not many straight away answer in positive against people like hard people like Modi or Trump. You have to straight on that. So those people who are still on the fringes, they are the deciders. And if you read in the last week or so, people are not reading the subtle neo-nationalism which even Obama advisors or political advisors and all have commented in the US media. We have written that today. That you have to Biden has to be aware of those facts which are actually churning in behind the scene. And tomorrow, when the National Convention happens, Trump will take it all against Biden and his company. And what Mr. Kapoor says, if people like Nikki Haley, who can counter to this woman factor and also the community factor, then I think Trump will have a far better chance than what he is today. He's just trailing by just about 6%. So we have to see still how he manages till the end.
Okay. Ambassador Vora, thank you for joining us, sir. A couple of questions for you, short ones, concise ones. First of all, how do you think Donald Trump has been with India? He's been okay with us, apart from the couple of times when he wanted to do a deal between India and Pakistan related to Kashmir. He's not really sort of rubbed us the wrong way. And second question, do you think the Kamala Harris factor, is that being, are we being hyperbolic about her? That just because she's of an Indian origin, it just increases our chances of, leveraging her position as vice president and, bringing in the United States and India closer?
Thank you very much, Mr. Malhotra, for this opportunity to interact with these brilliant minds on your panel. I'm sorry I'm a bit late. I was working out. I'm half American. This is the time I go to my personal gym to lose weight. Sorry about that. What is interesting, and what Mr. Pandey just said, and what Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, who's one of the best that we have in this service, have just said, that in bilateral relationships, principles are often trumped by practicalities. Trump, not in the sense of Donald Trump, but they're defeated by practicalities. Optics is not as important as output. Now, what we've seen is that the Indian Americans, as you rightly pointed out, may not have the numbers, but they do have enormous financial clout. And that financial clout then has a tremendous spin-off benefit. Also amongst the other minority communities, for example, minority in inverted commas, like the Latinos, there is a fair amount of interaction amongst the blacks, the African Americans, and so on. People will be wondering which side these fellows are going, which side those guys are going. Trump certainly has done nothing to antagonize us. That is very clear. Well, he did offer to mediate between us and Pakistan, but we shot it down, and he took it gracefully. He didn't turn around and say, "You wretched fellows, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You don't want me, you don't want me." He's a deal maker. Read his book in the mid-'80s, The Art of the Deal. That's Donald Trump for you. He was trying to see if he could pull off a rabbit out of a hat. It didn't happen, so it didn't happen. He moves on. So I would say that getting Kamala Harris onto his team is a message that now it's time for someone who's non-WASP, white Americans, white American, what is it, Protestant, whatever, to actually come in and occupy an important position in the American hierarchy. She might just land up becoming president one day, you never know. So in case this team wins. So what is important, sir, is to, for all of us, and Ambassador Kapoor and Mr. Pandya and Ms. Basu, Mr. P knows this better than I do, that as far as this election is concerned, I was there, by the way, 4 years ago when they had the previous election, the level of abuse, vituperation, unpleasantness would put our own elections to shame. I mean, it was a no-holds-barred race at that time. And I remember asking the friends I was sitting and watching the results coming in with, I say, am I in the United States or am I in Nigeria or in India, for that matter, for the kind of vituperation that one heard on the thing. And in fact, when he won, you might recall, sir, that there were chants in the room where it was announced when Hillary Clinton conceded, lock her up, lock her up. That means put her in jail because of what she has been doing with the emails and everything. Now, this time also, the battle has been joined. It is not pleasant. It's nasty and is likely to get nasty by the day. But if you ask me, sir, and this, I guess, is the dilemma of all Indians, my heart is with Trump. My mind is with Joe Biden. What do I do?
Joyita, where does your heart and mind lie? Is it
on the same side?
Donald Trump may have disappointed the Americans to a large extent, to a great degree, but he's not disappointed the Indian community, and especially Prime Minister Modi at all. Obviously, apart from the few skirmishes we had with them related to trade in the beginning and duties and taxes imposed, the relationship in the last 4 years has been absolutely very smooth.
Yes, Vineet. Here I wonder, in fact, whether he has even disappointed the Americans very much, primarily because from whatever I get to also hear from people, unless without this coronavirus crisis, perhaps Trump was not so badly placed. Okay, and because of this coronavirus crisis and this Black Lives Matter movement, I hear that a large part of it apparently has been orchestrated by the Democrats. So this kind of chaos and uncertainty, this anarchy that we see on the streets and all, apparently the kind of mainstreaming of the leftist extremists of the Democrats, that also is a problem with certain Democratic voters. So we will know which way the elections will go on November 3rd. Having said that, yes, when you come to look at it as a president who is better, I think we have to first think of it like this. We have to be neutral about it. But having said that, yes, can we ever say that if you go by track record, if you go by history, Republicans have definitely been better for Indians than the Democrats? And especially the problem with Joe Biden is that all of us have read that statement he gave about agenda for American Muslims, and then he gave a statement for agenda for Indian Americans. So you see that there's a huge problem over there in terms of, since all of us have read it, he has grouped us with China and China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims, and he's talking about India and India's treatment of under this government of the minority communities. I mean, how outrageous can that be? And after 2 months, he gives a statement, he goes and talks to the Indian community, the agenda that he is talking about over there he is talking about, he doesn't even mention for once anything about the minorities, nothing. And all that he is talking about is about Indo-Pacific. He's kind of talking about countering China. So he is talking about cross-border terrorism. He's talking about a partnership in defense, environment, whole lot of other things. So which one, how do you reconcile these two? This is the problem with us. But I am hearing one way of looking at it is, you see, whatever Mr. Biden might be saying, and even Kamala Harris's record is not exactly seen to be pro-Indian, even though apparently she welcomed Mr. Modi's visit first time he went there. The fact of the matter is that there might be Mr. Biden as president there might be some noises that will be made about human rights issues, because that is what central to their, party's policy or whatever it is. But when it comes to actual policy, whatever the track that India-US partnership is taking, that is going to continue. So, but the thing is that as proud Indians, do we want them to even make those noises? No, we don't want to. But at the same time, I look at it this way. Mr. Trump was not making any noises about us, but the US CIRF, that particular organization, was running us, a country of particular concern. So we have to live with this. And as I have been saying, we don't live with this, we counter this. This is something my Ambassador Vohra knows what I'm going to talk about now. This is the problem with our foreign policy establishment. We are not loud enough, we are not vociferous enough, we don't counter. We just sit there and think just because our policy is fine, we are going to be okay. Our messaging is totally messed up. We don't have a message, we don't talk. This is absolutely shocking. We have left this leftist Wahhabi elements to totally take over Washington Post and New York Times and let them have a go at it at India. We don't counter.
Let's
That's for you, Ambassador Pradeep. You must counter.
We are almost at the end of our show. Let's get an opening remark from Sumit Peer as well. Sumit, Joe Biden has promised to make some reforms and regulations which might have helped the Indian community or the Indians who want to work in the United States in terms of the H-1B visa. Do you think that is just a bait to throw us off, and take our attention off of what he really plans to do when he becomes president? Something which has been just pointed out by Joyita.
I think, Vineet, after all the eminent panelists have spoken just a few points, this H-1B thing is a fig leaf which he is trying to hide behind. It's nothing more than that. The good thing is that the Indian Americans, whoever is living in India, they're all educated people, they are geopolitically aware. There are a couple of things I want to bring to your notice. That Joe Biden picks up COVID to fight against Trump, and on the same day that Wuhan pool party happens, right? Now we know 9 out of 10 Americans think China is a threat. I don't know how do the polls predict that Biden is winning. Now, when you talk of Madam Kamala Harris, what Jyotaji rightly said, her inclination is not pro-India. And Trump might be an ace negotiator, but he has not done anything toward our interests. He has helped us wherever we want. And let's not forget, wherever China is today, you cannot see China, India, and Pakistan in the same bouquet. We are at two different blocks. The position of both the camps has to come clear. And wherever China is today, it's courtesy Obama. Obama was the brand ambassador of China to US. See the GDP, see the trade deficit, see the balance of trade between before Obama and after Obama. That answers the question. So the Indian Americans have to be careful enough. It is not about Kamala Harris or an Indian name being thrown into into a ring. We have to think where our interests are, and we have to go by track record. The track record of Mr. Joe Biden, unfortunately, is not pro-India. It's not for India. At the time of elections, you might do semantics, you might do optics to look good. I think it is not beyond that. If I am voting, my vote will go for President Donald Trump. That's for sure.
Okay, all right. Well, we don't have much time. Ambassador Kapoor, let me come to you. We'll take quick reactions briefly from all our panelists. Is Joe Biden just merely paying lip service? And if so, we are not that naive that we'll fall for it.
So, the strategic community is mostly clear in their minds today in the US and in Washington, D.C., that the future interests of US lie with India. The political community in terms of the Senate and the House of Representatives, the congressmen, are very clear that their future interests lie with India. Most of the academic community is also very clear in this aspect. And now the trading community and the economic and business community is also veering around towards that. So whether you have a Biden or you have a Trump in the White House, the overall prevailing interest and the bottom line, which will dictate their policies, will be this. So the future for India-US relations is going to be good. It's only that with Biden, it may have certain twists and turns which will not be sort of pleasant or acceptable to India. But it will still continue because he cannot override the current consensus in Washington, D.C. Messaging-wise, Joyita, what she says is absolutely correct. And we have not, for example, we have not even acknowledged the tremendous amount of statements and support which India has received in the last couple of months from the US And for any individual or any society or any community or any country to see a partner where you are putting yourself out on a limb and that country is not officially sort of supporting you on Hong Kong, on Taiwan, on South China Seas, or saying thank you very much for your statements on Ladakh, or for taking whatever actions you have taken in your Senate to condemn China's expansionist stance.
Let me get everybody's concluding remarks. Manish, let me come to you now.
Yeah, very quickly, I'll just go over what Joyita has said and what Sumit has said. But one thing is very clear, that New Delhi will try to strengthen the level of ties with Washington DC, be it Biden or Trump in the White House next in 2021. Because with Trump, yes, we will continue the pace through which we are. Biden may be, as Joyita said, that there might be some detour, but let's make one thing very clear. New Delhi is not going to change the narrative from here. Okay, it's very clear from the New Delhi side, and why should we? Because it's in many things, New Delhi is needed by Washington DC, not the vice versa. So we have to be very firm. At the same time, we have to be very accommodating in some of the things where both the democracies can come forward to resolve a lot of issues for the world. So we have to be very accommodating and forthcoming. And one thing is very clear politically. I will just add 10 seconds that Kamala Harris point. Let's not be too let's not be too romantic about it. That of the Indian American lineage, because she's also encashing the Afro American lineage, and the other community is also encashing on the same thing. So let's be very frank and clear. If we are going to vote for it, it is for the India cause, and whoever is supporting the India cause, this is the message for the Indian American community. We have to sit pretty and we have to just watch out. So we have nothing to, for us, it's head or tail. It's like the Shole ka Sikka, it's all the same. So
we've run out of time completely, Ambassador Vora. To you, then we go to Joyita and then Sumit.
All right, just wanted to say that it's the American voter who's going to decide the fate of the elections in November. It's not anything that we'll do in New Delhi. One thing that the Americans are thrilled about, and I can tell you the overwhelming majority of Indians, who are at least the younger educated people, are what we call techies. These are people who've invented in tech stocks. I have kids who've done that. Value of the NASDAQ 100 companies has grown by $2.9 trillion since the beginning of this year. Trump must be doing something right, that the values are skyrocketing, reaching bubble, what they used to call bubble era extremes. What is going on? The Americans are going to love him for this. Those who are making money, they'll vote for him.
Okay, Joyita?
Well, the thing is, you see, in terms of geopolitics, the sole threat to the world, I mean, the biggest menace to the world is China. Does Mr. Joe Biden realize that? Does he recognize that? Or does he still believe, about, how important NATO is and all that? So if that is, then I think there will be some problem. But I think the kind of atmosphere there is in China, even Mr. Joe Biden is coming to realize that he has to be anti-China. And to be anti-China, you have to be pro-India.
Okay, Sumit, 10 seconds and then we wrap up.
Just 3 points. First of all, democracies and autocracies like China and Pakistan and India cannot be seen together. We are two different blocks. So don't try to mix us. That's point number one. Point number two is, what are you doing on characters like George Soros? Because they have openly said they are going to cause disruptions in India. You have to come clear on that. And thirdly, there's an allegation by Donald Trump that Joe Biden's son got $1.3 billion from Chinese. And last but not the least, ab ki baar, phir Trump sarkar.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.